Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi, former exotic dancer, current content creator, pole dancer person. That's me. Lots of weird titles going on here. But as if titles really mean anything. But this lovely voice that's speaking with us today on the show is Miss Sasha Belle. Sasha, say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience. Happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you. And it's been really cool because we've had a lot of listeners of the show and also Sasha's fans request her to be on the show. So...
Oh, thanks, guys.
Overall fan favorite here. So the topic that we're going to be discussing today is sex work and motherhood. And motherhood is a huge, huge topic. And Sasha's going to share with us her experience because you're a brand new mother. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, I am. 6 months exactly on Monday.
Oh my goodness. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a little bundle of joy.
Oh.
Tears and joy.
Lots of tears and joy for sure.
Yes.
But we're definitely going to get into that because you've also returned recently to work at the strip clubs too. So it's going to be an interesting topic to talk about today.
Yeah, I just finished my first week.
Oh my gosh, great. Like, I can't wait to hear all about it. I also cannot wait to get to know you. And also for the audience that doesn't know Sasha, we're going to kind of get into who you are, what you do, in your words, on your own terms, because I know that, I mean, I don't know you personally, but I know that you are an exotic dancer, I guess here in the west coast of Canada, and I actually remember seeing you perform because I was really barely on the circuit, but I did do, what was that one at Caddyshack? It was like Miss Nude West Coast or
Miss Nude West Coast.
Yeah. And I remember I had never done any type of stripper competition before. I'm a trained pole dancer, but like I had never done a stripper competition before. And I remember seeing yours, and I think you had this like Space Jam kind of theme or something like that. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this is so unique.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of my favorite shows. Yeah, that I performing that show. I think that was at Rookie, maybe.
Oh, maybe Rookie of the Year or something.
Yeah, and that was the first show I had put together.
Wow.
And I just remember getting on that stage in that costume, and I was like, I'm living out my fantasy right now because I love Space Jam.
Who doesn't love Space Jam? Such a classic. But we're definitely going to get into all that competition stuff because that was like amazing. And I was like, how did you even come up with like a theme like this? Like, it's just so cool. Like, amazing.
Thank you.
But like, I have defined you as an exotic dancer, but I want you to tell the audience like who you are on your own terms, in your own words, and go.
I'm an exotic dancer, stripper, ripper, whatever you want to call it. I don't really opposed to many terms, to be honest. I don't do anything else other than dancing. That is my passion. That is where my fire is. I love the stage. Yeah, so I'm an exotic dancer.
Very cool. And the stage loves you. The audience loves you. How did you like get into stripping? Like, was it always something that you wanted to do? Is it because you had a dance background, anything like that? Or like, what is your story behind that?
I have a small dance background. When I was really young, I did jazz and ballet. Okay. I think I quit that around 13 or 14. The style clearly wasn't for me. And then once I turned 19 and I could start going to the bars, I went to a strip club. And I fell in love. Like, I loved the atmosphere. I loved the ladies. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously the money. I was like, well, wow, like, this is nice. And I can't remember her name, but she had long red hair with like straight across bangs, and she sat down in front of me because I was in the front row, and she did like the butt isolation where you move one butt cheek at a time.
Oh, yes.
And I was I was mind blown, and I went home that night and tried to do it myself, and I was like, I need to do this. Like, this is something that I feel I need to do. So I was nearly 19 at the time.
Wow.
And then I started dancing, I think I was 24.
Okay.
24. So it took me a while to do it, but when I finally did it, I was like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes. And you're super talented. Like, how did you, because you took, okay, obviously, so you saw your first show at 19, and then you started dancing around 24-ish, 25-ish. What made you, like, finally decide you wanted to take the plunge?
I feel like it's the one thing that really catapults a lot of things for a woman, and it was a bad relationship.
Oh,
I got out of a really bad relationship, and it was something that was in my back of my mind for so long, and this person didn't enjoy going to strip clubs, and I always have, like, that's been my thing. So when we separated, I was like, I'm gonna be a stripper now. Like,
wow.
I've made my decision. That's it. I'm doing it.
That's awesome. Can you tell the audience about, I guess, maybe your first time dancing? How did you even get involved with that? Because sometimes a lot of women will go to do an amateur night first, or some people talk to club owners. Or what was your process in kind of getting started and getting your feet a little dirty?
Yeah, so I had no idea that amateur contests were even a thing. Like, I knew nothing about the world other than, like, seeing these pretty girls on stage get naked. Like, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
So I actually I contacted Stripper, the agency in BC, directly through the website. And I was like, I want to be a dancer. How do I do this? And I got a reply back saying to do, they generally do, like, an amateur night and then kind of go from there. So when I was finally ready, I contacted them and I was like, okay, like, I would love to do an amateur. And I was living in Victoria at the time, and they said that there was an amateur at the Penthouse the following week on Wednesday or whatever it was.
Yeah, Thursday or
so
something.
I hopped on, whatever day. I hopped on a ferry for that night. So I went there, I did the amateur, I ended up placing first in the amateur.
Yes.
And then I went back to Victoria, and I didn't pursue it right away. I decided to kind of hold off. I was working another job, so I was like, well, I don't know. So this was, I think, in July.
Okay.
And then I contacted the agency again, probably, I think it was October.
Okay.
October or November. Yeah, so it took me a while. It wasn't instant.
Mm-hmm.
And they were having an amateur at the Fox, and I was like, oh yeah, great. Like, the Fox is awesome.
Yeah, totally.
So I went and did that, and I placed first again, and then again I didn't contact the agency right away. They ended up calling me, and they're like, so you've placed first twice. Are you gonna do this? I was like, well, I mean, I could try a week, I guess. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to book you.
Okay.
But the agent was like, but we need to get you a new name. Because for the amateur, I was using the name Sapphire, like super classic stripper name. Not very general.
Totally.
And so I was kind of thinking, I was like, well, I like the name Sasha, and I wanted to pair it with like another S, so it was like Sasha and then something else S, but I couldn't really come up with anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, like, going back and forth to the agent, I was like, well, Sasha Belle. And he's like, that's it right there. We'll go with that. I was like, cool. So I did the first week, and I just fell in love. And then from there, I just catapulted. The ideas started coming, and I bought a pole and I started to work at my craft, and yeah, I fell in love.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. I have so many questions for you.
Just ask away. exciting.
Yes. So, okay, let's go rewind back to your first amateur night at the Penthouse. Like, were you nervous at all? Were you scared? Have you ever done anything like this in terms of getting naked in front of strangers before? Or like,
Hell no. Hell no. I thought I was going to puke.
Oh my
I was so nervous. And I didn't realize that the pole span either.
Oh no.
I didn't know. So the first thing I do is I walk out on stage, I jump on the pole, and the Penthouse pole spins.
Yes.
Like, it is a spinny pole. I remember I just went for a ride, and I stopped, and I was like dizzy, and I just looked at the people in the audience, and I was like, well, I'm just going to shake my butt now.
It's like, I'm going to stick to the floor now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that front pole has got some spin, for sure.
Oh, yeah, it's nuts. And I remember, I think it was maybe like 40 seconds into the song, but it wasn't Sam because she was the announcer. I can't remember who was actually in the DJ booth, but he's like, hold up, we're going to change the song. And he changed it to, I think it's a Big Sean song, but it's like ass, ass, ass,
Oh,
ass.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good one, too. You're lucky. You got a good song.
I was like halfway through, and he's like, hold up, we're going to change the song. And I was like, and just like that kind of like humor and energy was something I just really loved. Like, you're just free to just be yourself, and I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. And obviously you did a great job because you won not only once at the Penthouse, but at the Fox, too. That's amazing.
Yeah, the Fox was wild. I think, man, I miss it so much, but the Fox stage it just feels so glamorous and beautiful on that stage. So when I did that amateur, I was like hooked, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to get naked for a long time. This is great.
But then again, so you didn't quickly go into it again. Was there any kind of apprehension, or is it just more like a timing thing in terms of like where you were in your life that you're like, okay, I'm thinking about this, or why was there like another pause again?
So I was hired in this restaurant to take over as manager, and it was a great restaurant. The food was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I have an extensive serving background, but I don't know, I just went back to what was comfortable after that relationship, and halfway through I kind of just went, I've done this and I don't like serving. Like, this isn't something I want to do again. And so I was just like, you know what, like, I'm just going to take the plunge. And of course there's like that worry of like, what's my family going to think?
Yeah.
What's people who know me going to think? Like, do I even have what it takes to do this? So, you have all those questions. And
totally.
I kind of just said, fuck it, we're going to do
it. And then you did. And then where was your first booking? If you remember.
So my very first booking was at the Caddy Shack.
Okay, yes, the Caddy.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, it was in Maple Ridge there, yeah.
Nice.
So it was the first week, I remember it was the first week in November, because I got so sick. I think it was the second or third day, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my first booking. I'm super sick.
No. No.
And I had like no dance wear as well, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, you're
so
new.
I did the first. Yeah, exactly. I'm so a baby stripper. I did the first day with what I had put together from my own wardrobe, and I woke up early the next morning to drive into Vancouver to go to Model Express.
Yeah,
because I had heard it was like Stripper Central,
the Mecca,
and the holy grail of everything that we are.
Yes.
I bought a bunch of stuff, and then that was it, and then finished the week. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. And then obviously you started getting involved with stripper competitions as well, which you've obviously very, very successful with. Did you want to speak a little about that and how you got involved?
Sure. So it was actually the second week I was ever booked. Was in Fort St. John.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was working with showgirl extraordinaire Heather Heaven.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
She is a force. And it inspired me because she got on stage, and just her presence and everything she was doing and her show was just so, from start to finish, so incredible and so entertaining. And I was like, that is awesome. Like, that is definitely like stripper goals for me.
For sure.
And it ignited the showgirl in my heart. And yeah, I just, from there, I started to just think, okay, like, if I'm going to put a show together, what would I do in terms of theme? And she had taught me some poi and kind of how to go down that showgirl route.
Right.
And she explained contests, and I had talked to the agent about contests. And yeah, shortly after that, I did Rookie, and that kind of catapulted that part.
Yeah. So that's amazing too, because like I feel when you first start as a dancer, you're not even aware that there's contests and competitions and stuff like this, and like how far you can really take your craft. Because like I've seen shows and they're just like jaw-droppingly amazing. Like it's a real show.
Oh, it's a production. Hell yeah. From start to finish, like some girls have their own lights and like put their own music together. It's incredible.
Totally.
What goes on behind the scenes is so much work, and it's very inspiring to me.
Absolutely. Like, you've done quite a bit of competitions yourself. Like, do you have any favorite themes that you've done in the past that are memorable?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, my Space Jam, that was the first idea that came to me that I wanted to create a show. So it has a very special place in my heart. But the show that I've used for both Miss Nude West Coast, because I really wanted the show to hold a title, it was my Joker. Because that, start to finish, that was my true production show. So I had my partner, because he's not a DJ, but like it's his hobby thing, right?
Okay.
He's really good at music, and he's played professionally and whatnot, but he's super good with music and cues and timing.
Awesome.
So I sat down with him and I gave him a list of music, and I had him put a set together for me.
Oh.
So this was the first show from... Yeah, it was... I sat down and I was like, this is going to be a true production.
Oh, wow.
So I designed the costume. I designed the lighting, like what lighting I wanted where. The music was custom. I had every prop imaginable for this show.
Wow.
I had put so much time into my fire show for this. So I think, and I did win Miss Nude. I had 2 shows for that one, but the one I did on the final night was my Joker. So
wow.
I think that one is probably, my biggest accomplishment.
So cool. And like, as you said, it is 100% a true production. Like, how do you even, like, what is your process in terms of like getting a theme, like designing the costumes, getting the music together, and making sure that everything is just like seamless? Like, how do you have a process for that at all?
I kind of just wing it, to be honest, in the beginning. I don't really know what I'm doing, so I just kind of try things out. But it starts with something that I love, because I guess that's just, where the creativity comes from. It's just like, what do I love, and how do I translate that into stripping?
Right.
So Space Jam has been one of my favorite movies since it came out. I was super young. And I was watching it one day, and I was like, and the show just came to me. Like, it was just little pieces of the movie. I was like, oh, I could put this here, and I could put that there. And the soundtrack to Space Jam is already a banger itself, so that's cool.
Totally.
And then the Joker, I was actually on the plane up to Fort St. John, I do believe. And I was just like, I was watching The Dark Knight on the plane up there, and I was like, I could make this show too. This a show too, I think. So I started to design the costume, and I hit up my designer, BBI, and
yes, she's amazing.
I was just like, what can we do with this? Yeah, oh my God, Karen's stuff is so beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah, for sure.
So she gave me this incredible, like, the fabrics, and I was like, yes, this is beautiful. So yeah, it just comes from a place of like what I love, and then I kind of go with what I'm thinking for a costume, and I hand it off to the goddess herself, and she creates her magic. And then when I get the costume back, I go from there. So I look at the costume and I'm like, okay, like what props from the movie can I take into this? And then when it comes to music, I try to have one or two songs either from a soundtrack if it's like a movie theme or something that fits the theme.
Yeah.
And then I just have some like popular stuff in there in between. But the music is totally trial and error.
Yeah.
I change up the music if it's not a custom set. I change it up bar to bar because, you know, people like different things, right?
Absolutely. And obviously you're winging it and your work has paid off because you've obviously won. So
yeah.
That's incredible.
And I was, so when I did Miss Nude, the winning one for 2019 when I won, I was 18 weeks pregnant.
What?
So,
oh my God.
Yeah. I was so pregnant for that. So
my God.
I hold that title very close to me just because beyond just like, you know, all of the amazing girls that were there to even, you know, that I was fortunate to place, to do it while I felt so uncomfortable was incredible to me.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, you absolutely deserve the win. 100%.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, speaking of pregnancy, you've obviously had a child, and I would like to kind of move the conversation over to, I guess, motherhood.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you found out you were pregnant. Was this something that was like, oh, whoops, I'm pregnant, this is what's happening? Or is it something that you were planning that's like you're at this stage in your life where like it's time to have a baby? Like, what about my career? What was your, I guess, experience with that?
Yeah. So definitely not planned. It was a bit of a whoops. But I had always told myself, I know. I had always told myself that if I didn't have kids by a certain age, I wasn't, like, I wouldn't have any because I wasn't, for a long time I was set on I didn't want kids, but then it just turned to, well, I mean, maybe. If it happens, I suppose.
Oh.
And then lo and behold, he's born a month after I turned this age. So I guess the universe was listening to me.
Totally. It's meant to be.
but yeah, when I found out I was pregnant, it definitely all of the questions, it was, do I want to do this? Like, what about my career? Am I even going to be a good mom? Like, all of the things that I was feeling for sure. But yeah, I told my partner and we decided that this is what we were doing and we would tackle it together and, you know, we have a beautiful little boy now.
Yay. Congratulations again. That's such a nice story. So I guess like all those questions were running through your head. When did you, like, how many weeks pregnant were you when you decided, okay, like, I actually can't physically dance anymore?
Yeah, so Miss Nude, I was 18, so I was in Alberta working, and the first week I was out here, because I was supposed to be out here for 3 weeks, and the first week I was working was fine, I was okay, so I think I would have been 15 weeks at that point.
Oh my gosh.
And this was in October, and I was planning to work until the end of November.
Okay.
But the next week, I think halfway through the week, I quote unquote popped, and all of a sudden I couldn't move my body. Like, pole work was not happening.
Oh.
I was so uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had reached the point where I was done, and I tried to do my third week out here, but I had to leave after like 2 days. On the third day, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So I left halfway through. I called a stripper, and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to let go of my bookings. Because I was at the Penthouse next week, so I kept that one because it's a fairly gentler shift.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I kept the next week because that was Miss Nude, and I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm coming back. I could be retiring forever, and if I do, like, I want a title before I retire. Like, it's a goal of mine. I need to do that. So this is my last week ever, I want to go out on the highest note possible.
For sure.
And I did. So,
yeah, you did.
So that was great.
Oh my God. And then,
Yeah,
sorry,
but that
that was
was
the last
it.
one? Yeah.
18 weeks was the cutoff.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Holy crap. And like, how did you ever get any like morning sickness or anything like that, or any kind of pain and at all when you were dancing, or how are you feeling if you remember?
I was very fortunate to not get any morning sickness. I
Oh,
was just so tired.
yeah.
The week after I found out I was pregnant, I was working at JJ's,
Yeah.
and they have a beautiful setup there for us. And I just like I was snoozing so much, and someone made a comment about how I sleep a lot, and I hadn't nobody knew at this point, right? Because I was still processing, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, if you only knew, I'm sleeping a lot for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, no morning sickness. And then towards the end, before I stopped, because your ligaments and everything in your hip start to stretch out, I started to get some pain in my hip.
Right.
So, but other than that, like I had a really good pregnancy. I didn't have a whole lot of trouble with it. So
Oh,
that was good.
wow. Very lucky.
Yes, I've heard horror stories, so I'm very thankful.
I mean, amidst the actual like physical changes that were happening to your body, did you experience any changes that were happening mentally as well in terms of like preparing for motherhood and when your baby was going to be born?
Oh yeah, a lot of panic. So much panic.
Naturally.
um, yeah, I don't know in terms of a lot of like my mental state, other than just worrying about everything. Yeah, up until maybe a couple months before he came, I really didn't have a whole lot. I was just like, oh yeah, like this is okay. Smooth going. I was, watching TV, eating good,
Yeah.
taking care of myself. And then, yeah, the last 3 months, I started to panic at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? How am I going to have this baby? I was worrying about where am I going to put the baby? Do I have everything I need for the baby? Oh my God, I have to give birth to the baby. So I was good up until the end. And then, oh, I was a bit of a basket case towards the end, that's for sure.
For sure. I mean, it's super, like, I'm sure your anxiety levels were just, like, through the roof at that
Oh
point.
yeah, you're preparing for something you don't even know what to expect. The biggest life change possible, so panic a little.
Oh, absolutely. And, like, I mean, there's only so much you can prepare or what you think you should prepare for and stuff. Like, and especially for something like motherhood, that's something you've obviously never done before. I guess what were some, like, once your child was born, what were some of the things that shocked you that were like, I was not prepared for this at all? Can you recall anything?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like when you're pregnant, you prepare so much for the pregnancy and for the birth. And like people tell you that, because they call it the fourth trimester, the first 3 months after the baby's born.
Okay.
You don't really prepare for that. Like you know you're gonna lose sleep and these things, but I did not prepare for how I would feel mentally.
Okay.
When the baby was born, so they call it the golden hour, and that's when the baby latches and you feed the baby, and it's like this magical hour of bonding.
Yeah.
And we had that, and I felt connected to the baby for the first few weeks, and then like the sleep deprivation and the constant being in need kicks in. And you kind of like lose the connection. Like obviously you love your baby and that never goes away. But I lost that connection. And of course I'm freaking out like, oh my God, I'm a terrible mother. I've lost this connection. Do I not love my baby? And then, you start to talk to people. And I had a midwife, which was great. So you can talk to them for 6 weeks after the birth as well. And I was telling her, I was like, and she was like, it's totally normal.
Yes.
It happens. So the postpartum depression is basically what it is.
Yeah.
And I have a history with depression and mental health as it is. So I kind of figured this would happen to me, but I did not prepare for the level of mood swings that would occur. Because, I mean, with the sleep deprivation and then just this serious life change, your brain just kind of goes into what the fuck is happening.
Totally. Absolutely.
So that shocked me for sure. I was not expecting to be so moody, essentially.
Yeah, no, and that's like totally understandable. And I was actually about to ask you about postpartum depression, because I feel like so many people just like need to start talking about it, because it is a thing, and it is common for that to happen.
Yeah,
and I just
100%.
Yeah, like, and I just really am glad that you brought that up, because I just feel like a lot of new mothers like are still in the I guess impression that it's don't ask, don't tell. It's a hush hush thing. It's a private thing that's between the family, and I feel like the attitude towards that kind of needs to change in terms of like really addressing where you are mentally. It's super important.
Yeah, we talk about all other forms of mental health, and there's this very weird like energy around being parents. Like everyone has expectations, society has these expectations. It's a very weird, like, motherhood is and parenthood is, it's got this weird like perfection around it that just doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of mom guilt is so terrible. And I feel like a lot of moms have this mom guilt because they don't feel connected to the baby 24/7. They don't want to pay attention to the baby 24/7. They feel burnt out or touched out, like they don't want their baby to touch them because it's been touching them all day, and things that are just totally normal human feelings, that if another human, like a grown adult human, was acting this way towards you, you'd feel that way towards them too. You'd be like, bro, give me some space.
Yeah, absolutely.
But babies can't give you the space, right?
No.
So it's totally normal, and the mood swings and the hormones and the life change, and I definitely wish that was something that was more talked about, because it is totally normal. Your life is being sent for a loop, and you're doing all these things on minimal sleep. Like, you're bound to not feel okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's totally 100% okay for you to feel like that. Your feelings are like absolutely valid as well. And again, like, I just wish that this is more of a regular conversation that new mothers have. And I'm glad that you have your midwife to talk to, and I'm sure you have like close family and friends to talk about it as well. But as you said, like, there's like a weird attitude or a weird kind of like stigma around it, which is, I feel, odd.
Yeah, right? Like, we can talk about all these other things, but when it comes to raising kids, people are so opinionated, and it's very like black and white to people, and I just that's not conducive to being a human. So how do you raise a human like that,
Absolutely. And there's not like there's any like guidebooks really, because like there's so many different ways to approach parenting, right? Like, so many different avenues.
And the parenting books that are out there, bullshit. You can try to apply that to your child, and there's some good tips and tricks here and there, but your baby is going to do whatever your baby is going to do, and you're kind of just along for the ride.
It's an overall like learning process, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're their own, it's a little human. They're their own person, and it takes time to get to know them, and I still, like, I have days where I'm like, how am I going to get through this? Like, bad days, I don't think they come and go, right? So it's just, you have to get to know your little human and what works for them and what works for you as a family, and go from there.
Yeah, totally. And that's some great advice too, because as I said, like, I feel like there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like a process in terms of like, okay, there's a human that I created. How do I deal with this? How do I keep it alive?
Exactly. And I mean, honestly, as long as the baby is alive, you're doing good.
You're surviving.
You have to set. Yeah, you have to set the expectations pretty low. And again, I still struggle because I'm a very not a perfectionist, but I have my tendencies that clash with having a baby for sure. So
like what?
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very okay, so at this time we do this, at this time we do that.
Okay.
I'm not a super routine person, but yet I have a set routine. This is what I do throughout the day. And yeah, babies are kind of well, no, I want to do this today. So and because you have to work around their naps, and thankfully I do have a baby that is generally fairly consistent with nap times and bedtimes and wake times, but you have to plan around them. And then when you're cooped up in the house, especially with COVID, you're not doing a whole lot. So when you get that small opportunity to go somewhere and the baby decides that that's not a time that works for them, it can be so heartbreaking and frustrating. So that's where I struggle, because I'm very set. Okay, I'm going to do this. And then when that doesn't happen, I'm just cheers.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I guess if there are some mothers out there too, how have you been coping, and do you have any advice for them or people that are pregnant right now? Any coping mechanisms that you have?
Yeah, I mean, start with just lowering your expectations to pretty much none. And to just have grace with yourself. It's so hard. People say it's hard, but it's harder than hard. And I definitely don't want to scare anyone, because obviously it's magical at the same time. But yeah, just reach out to whoever you can. Be honest with how you feel. If you are comfortable with a midwife, because you can have a midwife and a doctor, get a midwife. They are angels sent from above. And they come to your house and check on you. It's definitely a huge part of the postpartum support system.
Okay.
So I would suggest a midwife, reaching out to whoever you can. And even when it comes to the birth, because you have your birth plan and you want things to go how you want them to go, and how you would prefer them to go, but they might not go that way, and it can be hard to deal with afterwards if it doesn't. So low expectations, good support, and just prepare for everything.
That's great. And obviously you've been doing such a great job as a new mom. Again, you said almost 6 months at this time?
Just 6 months.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
just 6 months. Yeah.
It's a huge milestone. So congratulations on that.
We did it. We made it half a year.
I also want to talk to you about your return to work as well. So I know that you've also recently completed your first week back at the clubs. So I think you were at Blondie's. Yeah. Did you want to speak about that?
Sure, yeah. So last night was my last night at my first week back at Blondie's. It was so many emotions. Because on one hand, I'm going back, not with an all-new body, but your body changes, of course.
For sure.
You had a baby. So I was dealing with that, and I had to have a cesarean, so I do have a scar. So I was like, oh man, are people going to see it? That's, dead giveaway for, I've had a baby.
Yeah.
All those things. So I was definitely worried about how I would feel.
Okay.
I had tried on my heels before work to be can I even walk in them anymore? And I felt like a newborn deer. So I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get off the stage in my heels and dance?
Oh my gosh.
But, yeah, because they have this little, at Blondie's, the stage, there's this curtain, and you walk out onto the stage. It's pretty glorious. So I was behind the curtain, and the DJ called my name, and I was just I was, again, ready to puke. I was so nervous. And then I went through that curtain, and I stepped on the stage, and I was like, oh, yes, I'm home. And it just, I didn't think about the audience. It wasn't very busy, Tuesday night. So there wasn't really anyone there, and I, you say hi to people, but the audience wasn't my focus. I just listened to the music, and I just danced my heart out. I just went for it. It was like a year's worth of dance just came out. And I was such a sweaty mess afterwards in the change room, and I was like trying to catch my breath because that's a lot of work for not moving that much in a year.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, yeah. And then the nerves kind of melted away, and I was like, oh, yeah, I can still do this. It's still there.
Yay. So you had a pretty good homecoming then. That's awesome.
And Blondie's is great. The staff is super nice, and the stage is glorious, and the pole goes from spin to static to non-spin.
Okay.
And I was very thankful for that because I was not ready to take on that spin pole. So we were good.
That's awesome. And I also wanted to talk to you in terms of how did you decide that you wanted to go back to work, and especially going back to sex work? Was that something that you were thinking of during your pregnancy, or also when you were a newborn mother? Is that something where you were like, okay, I'm definitely going back to work, or were you question mark up in the air? Is this something I want to do again? Can I do this again?
Yeah, it was definitely the latter. I was more question mark. What's my body going to do after this? Am I going to feel comfortable? Yeah. Do I even want to go back, kind of thing? And during my pregnancy, when I had stopped dancing, I was pretty content. I was like, yeah, what? Maybe, but I don't think I'm going to go back. I think this might be the end. Mm-hmm. And then after the birth, I didn't think about anything other than the baby for the first 3 months.
Yeah.
So definitely wasn't a question in my mind then. But once things had settled down, I was kind of I was getting that stage itch. I was like, man, the lights, the glamour. And I was looking at my costumes because I had them hung in a closet. And I was like, I already had it set in my head. I'm definitely not going to work as much as I did. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to work as hard as I did. Maybe I'll travel here and there. I don't know. Yeah. But I did know that I wanted to return for some weeks here and there. So,
okay.
After my first week, I'm still in that mindset of I'm not willing to do back-to-back weeks, right. months on end or anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
But I have that itch I got to scratch.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, how do you intertwine motherhood and being a new mom, being a new parent with working, in terms of scheduling and stuff too? How are you doing all of this?
Oh, it was so hard. So thankfully my partner took a day off his work middle of the week. So it was actually Wednesday. So after my first night back, I could get some sleep.
Okay.
But it's so hard. So especially with a club that's open a bit later, I'm not getting home until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you have to just eat and shower and wind down.
Yeah.
And by the time I'm ready to go to bed, my baby will wake up for his early morning feed. So I feed him, and then I go back to bed, and then, maybe a few hours later he's up for good. So I'm only getting 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep if I'm lucky.
Wow.
And then if I can nap while he naps, I will, but it's unlikely. So I'm going the day, taking care of my baby, business as usual. And then I get ready for work, and I go to work at night, and it's a lot. It's definitely heavy schedule. Mm-hmm. Getting up with the baby, business as usual. Mm-hmm. It's a heavy schedule for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also nice to go out and actually talk to adults because I don't face to face don't talk to a lot of adults during the day. So.
That's a good way of looking at it, for sure.
Yeah. But I was so socially awkward the first few days. Because when you because you do the baby talk, you're like, oh, my little baby, and you repeat things, and you've got this little voice. And then you get into a strip club, and you're like, oh, how do I do this again?
How do you talk to clients again? How does it
Yeah,
work?
right. Like, how do I be a normal person again? Because I don't. The floor for the first few days, I was so nervous.
Yeah, I bet. And again, those feelings are completely valid for sure, especially when you've taken like basically a year off. And you're like,
Yeah,
what do I do?
and again with COVID, like you're not going anywhere, you're not talking to people aren't coming over, kind of thing. So to get thrown back into a club setting it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's definitely, as you said, like really weird, like timing with COVID and stuff like that, and everything's a bit different, right? So it's just a weird time, weird year overall.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. You do have a few questions here from your fans and your audience as well, so I kind of wanted to move the conversation that way too.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So, first question here. When are you going to be at JJ's?
When am I going to be at JJ's? I don't know. I don't have any plans to travel. I'm just not ready to be away from my baby for that long.
Fair enough.
But when I know, I will let everyone know for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be plugging you at the end of the show too, so that's one way you can kind of keep up with Sasha. So stay tuned. How many months did you stay at home until returning back to work?
6 months.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, 6 months exactly. So.
Crazy. And that was something that you had planned, or you were kind of deliberate with that timing as well, or?
No, I just kind of was playing it by ear because I wanted to make sure he was sleeping well and that we were ready to kind of dip our toes into that schedule as a family. And
I see.
Yeah, I kind of woke up one day and I was like, well, let's give it a go, see what happens.
It's time. Let's do the damn thing.
It's time. Yeah. Dust off the heels.
What are some of the challenges you're facing as a new mother?
I think the biggest one is just balancing who I am, like as a person, as myself, and who I am now as a mom.
Okay.
And that definitely does clash with the Sasha personality as well, right? So
for sure.
I'm trying to find and balance being a mom with being who I am, with being Sasha, and mixing all these personalities, because as a mom, it's like you're supposed to put on your mom jeans and get a minivan and have this like super squeaky clean personality, which just obviously is not me at all. So it's very interesting within society and within myself trying to put together the balance of my sensuality, my personality, and still being a mom. Being okay with still having those other personalities.
Right.
And not feeling that quote unquote mom guilt for still being the person that I am. Because society says that being a stripper or being a sensual woman and a mom is you're not allowed to do that. So,
yeah.
Even though that's how the baby got there in the first place.
For sure. That's really interesting. I love how you said that too, because obviously our aliases and our stage personas, they're like a different character. And then you also have kind of like your normal day-to-day, like who you are as a person outside of work character, but also now you have this third character personality that is being a new mom. Yeah, that's really fascinating, because do you find that pieces of all of your personalities shine on stage, or sometimes they shine when you're being a mom and stuff? Do they ever mix together, or how are you doing that? I just wanted you kind of, if you wanted to share more detail about that, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It definitely all does come together. Funny enough, last night someone had pointed out that I'm a mom, and of course, my brain instantly went to, mom bod type thing. But we just got into this conversation, and he was talking about his kids, and then he asked me, he's like, oh, do you have a kid? And I was like, yeah, actually, I had my first 6 months ago. Yeah. And he's like, oh, I could tell. And I was like, oh, mom bod. He's like, you just your energy. And I was like, oh. Well, thank you. Yeah, so I think it does. You just can't help but to mix your personalities. And I do feel more, I wouldn't say confident, because I've always been pretty confident, but I do feel more free. Like, a part of me when I had him opened up that obviously I didn't know was there. And I think that just comes with having a child.
Right.
And you just have this, just more love within you, and more happiness, right? Like, because with all the, you know, hard parts that come with being a mom, there's just such a true happiness,
right,
as well. So I do think that comes through. And then I find, I don't really see a whole lot of Sasha in that, but there's a happiness that is born within you when you become a mom. And I do think that energy comes across on stage and in general. But yeah, I do think that reads. And then just with me, being me with him, obviously, you know, those personalities mix pretty flawlessly. And, you know, in these little cute outfits, and I'm in these little cute outfits. And it all, you worry about how all these things are going to mix, but they just, they kind of just do it naturally.
Totally. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Just a few more questions here, because I don't want to take you away from your baby. Just a few more questions. I think we already talked about this one earlier, but how long did you dance for while pregnant? I think you said up to 18 weeks, was it?
Yeah. So I was 18 weeks officially when I hung up the heels.
Wow, that's crazy. It's super admirable too. I'm like,
yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Thank you. It was uncomfortable.
I bet it was. Do you feel as though your mentality is going to change in regards to how you deal with customers?
Oh, 100%. I don't know if it's months of sleep deprivation, but my patience is a lot thinner. I definitely, I just don't have it in me to, I guess, like, hustle as hard. And I do, like, when I do find myself talking to customers now, I find myself just kind of like giving that more energy that I have. And it is very well received, I did notice, for sure. But I just, if someone says something that's, you know, just not nice or just off-putting, I just don't have it in me to sit there and deal with it. I'm just like, okay, well, have a good night. And get up and go. Like, I definitely have less patience, for sure.
Fair enough.
And again, that could just be because of the months of sleep deprivation, but I'm definitely not as patient.
Might play a factor or two.
Yes.
And the last question here is, what are some things you're looking forward to with your return to work?
Ooh, getting back into shape, for sure. Shedding the last 10 mom pounds of they call it. I'm excited to entertain again. I'm excited to learn new skills. I'm excited to incorporate this new part of me into my work and into the vibe that I bring to the stage. I'm excited to create new costumes and just new skills and and just dance my little heart out again.
There we go. Well, everyone here listening, I'm sure they're more than happy to have you back onto the stages. I know that BC is a little limited right now, but it's great to have you back on stage here in the West Coast of Canada.
Aw, thanks. It's happy to be back for sure. I missed all you guys.
And I know you have to get back to your baby, but before I let you go, where can we find you?
So, in the clubs, I'll actually be out in Alberta.
Okay.
I'll be in Red Deer at Ecstatic on October 13th. If you're in and around the area and want to see me in person, but 1.0 was deleted. So Sasha Belle 2.0, you can always contact me through there. I'm not on any other platforms. So if you need to find me, those are the two places.
There you go. There you go. And Sasha, it was such a pleasure to get to know you today. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your really, really, really busy schedule to come and speak with me today.
That's all good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy that we could do this. It was really fun.
Absolutely. I really hope that it kind of gave some insight maybe to some dancers that, maybe want to get pregnant or they're currently pregnant or, maybe motherhood is something that they want to explore down the line and like how to navigate going back to work. So again, this is a super insightful episode. So thank you. And
of course. I mean, we can do it. We're women.
Exactly.
We're very powerful and we are superheroes. So you just gotta do it.
100%. And that's it for today's episode, guys. Don't forget to like, rate, share, review, and subscribe. Give me a nice little review on Apple Podcasts. And it is Stripped by Sia on Instagram, as well as Sia Steph is my personal if you want to get at me. And we'll catch you guys in for another episode next Sunday. See you guys. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, artwork by Maria Bellandarama, music by Ted D, and photography by Ian Dabern.